The Haunted Hume Hotel. It was late August in Nelson, BC, when my family traveled for a regatta on beautiful Kootenai Lake. My sister Elizabeth, my father, and I drove our beat-up Dodge Dakota through winding mountain roads into town. The air was warm, and a haze from distant wildfires drifted over the hills, carrying the sweet, acrid scent of burning pine. Mountains rose around us like dark sentinels, their peaks catching the last light of day. Pines, cedars, maples, oaks, and aspens mixed together, their leaves whispering in shades of green and gold. Sunlight pierced through the canopy in slanting beams, spilling over the highway and guiding us toward the lake. Nelson appeared suddenly, a small city cradled between water and mountains, at once quaint and commanding. Heritage buildings of brick and stone lined the narrow streets like rows of old teeth, their painted signs fading into ghosts of older names. Hanging flower baskets swung gently from wrought iron lampposts. There was charm in the air, yes, but also something else, something watchful, like the town itself was holding its breath. The Hume Hotel rose above Baker Street, its century-old brick facade glowing in the waning light. It looked like a relic from another era, its windows glinting like dark eyes. We were tired from the drive and eager for dinner, but I remember even then feeling the building's presence. Oh wait, almost imperceptible but pressing. Our room was a standard two-queen layout. When you entered, the bathroom door sat directly ahead. To the left was the bed my sister and I shared, to the right my father's. The bathroom created a sort of dividing corridor, with just another space to feel separate from one another. We unpacked in silence, each of us taking turns in the bathroom. My father was ready first and left to meet our rowing coach, Martin, in the lobby. My sister straightened her hair in the bathroom as I sat at the desk, writing a letter to my boyfriend at boot camp. The soft click of the iron punctuating my thoughts. That's when I heard the first knock. It was a polite, deliberate knock. 3 taps, just enough to make me think my father had forgotten his keys. I rose, opened the door, and stared into an empty hallway. The corridor stretched both ways, quiet and still, with not a single door open or footsteps retreating. I frowned, closing the door, and told myself it must have been my sister bumping against something in the bathroom. When she emerged, dressed and ready, I told her I'd be down shortly, and she left with her key. Alone, I finished sealing the envelope when a second knock came. This time it was louder, insistent. A cold ripple of unease crept down my back. My sister had her key, my father with Martin. Why knock, and why twice? Pressed my eye to the peephole, nothing. The hallway was utterly empty. No motion, no sound. I opened the door just a crack, peeking out. Still nothing. My heart thudded as I stepped back into the room. I told myself I was imagining it, grabbed my bag, and hurried down to meet the others. Dinner at Mike's place was warm and grounding. We laughed with Martin over steaming plates, the normalcy of it making me forget the unease upstairs. My father and Martin went to the lounge afterward, leaving my sister and me to return to our room. We slipped into bed, stomachs full, and moods light. That's when the faint scratching started from inside the bathroom wall. It was soft at first, like mice. We whispered back and forth, convincing ourselves that's all it was, until we fell into restless sleep. I dreamed all night but could not wake from it. Murky, oppressive nightmares that evaporated by morning, leaving only a heavy feeling in my chest. My sister, pale and tired, told me she'd heard footsteps pacing outside our door through the night. Our father chuckled when we asked if he'd noticed anything, brushing it off. His CPAP machine drowned out any sound, he said. The next day passed like a reprieve. We spent it at the lake, prepping boats and preparing for races the next day. After prep was finished, a couple of teammates, my family, and I went on an outing to explore the town. Nelson's shops and cafes were bright and inviting, a world away from the hotel's stillness. But that evening, after a team dinner at an Italian restaurant, our unease returned. We opened our hotel room door to a sight that made us stop cold. Every pillow in the room, from our beds, from the chairs, had been arranged in a perfect circle on my father's bed. In the center of the circle stood one long, cylindrical pillow, balanced upright as if by an unseen hand. The soft mattress should have made it impossible, but there it was, defying gravity. For a moment we said nothing, staring. Then my father exhaled sharply and began putting the pillows back, muttering something about housekeeping. We were too tired to argue. That night I couldn't sleep at all, listening to the faint sound of footsteps pacing up and down the hallway, never stopping. The next morning, race day, we fled the hotel early. We spent the day at the lake, exhausted but triumphant, staying out until nightfall celebrating with teammates. Yet each time we returned to the Hume, my sister and I felt it pressing on us, the sense that something unseen disapproved of our presence, that the walls themselves were leaning closer. On our final morning, after breakfast at the hotel's general store restaurant, curiosity got the better of us. We asked our server if the hotel was haunted. Her face lit up, not in amusement, but recognition. She told us of renovations stirring up activity, of a maid whose cleaning cart had been thrown across the hallway, of guests whispering about unseen hands leaving scratches where none had been. Strangely, we felt relieved to know we weren't alone in our experience. When we left the hotel later that day and drove out of town, Nelson looked as serene as it had when we first arrived. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the Hume Hotel had been watching us the whole time, and that it was not yet finished with its story. I killed my friend. When I, a 21-year-old female, was 5 years old, I accidentally killed my friend as we were playing. We were jumping on a trampoline together. She was jumping very high, and when she landed, I playfully pushed her. I didn't think it was dangerous at all. She lost her balance and fell badly, landing on her neck. I got scared and started crying, and I ran to tell her parents what had happened. At that time, I didn't understand how serious the accident was. I thought she would recover. However, a few days later, I found out that she didn't survive. I was very young then and didn't fully understand the consequences of my actions. Nowadays, I feel deep guilt about what happened. Sometimes when I go to sleep, I still see the accident in my mind. I am glad that therapy exists and that I can get help dealing with these feelings. A white figure keeps chasing me. There is a white figure chasing me since I was little. I always have this thing on my mind. I'm a big fan of those videos on YouTube talking about these scary stories and thought I should share my longest and somewhat still ongoing experience. For background, my earliest memory of this happening wasn't even mine. It was my brothers who told me about it. Basically, when I was around 6 or 7, my brothers went on a sleepover to my cousins without me. I was a loner for all my life. I didn't care if my brothers did that kind of stuff without me. Not that it matters to the story, though. Anyways, they came back from the sleepover and they told me on how they saw a tall, skinny, and uncanny faceless white thing watching them from outside when they were trying to go to sleep. My cousin's house is very haunted from what I heard. There's a lot of stories I could go over in that house. Anyways, they told me about it. That's my most earliest experience from what I remember. Ever since they told me that story, it had been in our lives since. My first encounter with it was when I was 8, and I lived in this trailer park. The living room had long windows on the side, showing the neighborhood inside our living room. Me and my brother were planning to sleep in the living room that day. My brother was on the TV playing a game, while I was on my laptop at the time. I looked up and saw the white thing. Perfectly matched my brother's description. However, when I actually averted my eyes to look at it properly, it was gone. I told my brother and he immediately believed me, not questioning me. Since then, this thing has been following me since. However, it started to chase me every time I've been seeing it now. I don't know what it's like to my brothers who know of it. I haven't really come around to question them about it. But every time I see glimpses of it, I see it running to me. But it vanishes before I fully see it. Eventually, I moved out of the county I lived in all my life due to financial problems. In this county, I never saw it. In fact, I completely forgot about it, actually, until I moved back to my born county. However, I've only saw it once or twice. It's still running, though it has gotten further away instead. The scariest encounter is when I was on the couch in the living room, and an overwhelming feeling of being watched washed over me. I looked to where it was coming from, and it was up the stairs, peeking at me, staring at me. I wasn't running. It wasn't fully showing itself, but I saw it. Then it averted its head out of view. I haven't seen it since then. More background info. I come from a family that has always dealt with the paranormal. My auntie has a haunted doll collection, my brothers have their own weird instances, but I really don't know. I am 51, that encounter was from last year, a little before my 51st birthday. I would also like to say that I have many other paranormal encounters besides just this one. Just this one is the most longest one that has followed me everywhere besides when I left the county for a year. By the way, just writing this or even thinking of it causes an overwhelming feeling of being watched, a feeling of anxiousness, and it causes me to have headaches too. Thank you for reading. I'd love to get some feedback on this. Thank you.